So the question now is, once we have created some value offering to customer, a product or a service is willing to pay more than the price we want to get, the point here is how value is captured. So who is getting the value that the customer is paying when he paid the price? Again, we asked to Professor Brandenburger, who invented the value-based strategy, a first clarification on.
In the game of business, firms, suppliers, customers together create value, or what we call the pie. So how is this pie divided among players of the game? A broad answer might be, that's what competition is. Firms compete to sell to customers or buy from suppliers. Customers compete to buy from a firm, and suppliers compete to sell to a firm. But how should we depict this process? Can we imagine drawing a game tree? With all the bids, offers, prices, counteroffers, and so on, among the firms, customers, and suppliers, this tree would get extremely big very quickly. John von Neumann, one of the great mathematicians of the 20th century and founders of game theory, took a different route. Instead of trying to describe all the moves that might take place, he asked if we could describe different outcomes of the game. To begin this idea, let's look at value, the total pie. We then ask, by how much does the total pie change if a given player is not in the game? This difference, the total pie minus the pie without a given player, is called the player's added value. This concept of added value guides us to another concept. What is each player's received value? Or, how is the total value divided into slices? Here we propose a principle of how competition works. The resulting division of the pie gives each player a slice equal to or less than that player's added value. Now let's look at an example of this idea. Suppose there are 3 players in the game. The first player tries, rather optimistically, to get more than its added value. But then the second and the third players would end up with less pie in total than they could create without the first player. They would do better to exclude the first player and make a deal between themselves. So, for a given player to receive more than its added value, the other players must be missing an opportunity. Will players sometimes miss opportunities to find such deals? Yes. But the idea of competition is that they do not. So, thanks to John von Neumann and subsequent work in game theory, we now have a picture of competition. Competition is the process that awards each player in a game no more than its added value. How might we use the power of this principle to analyze competitive situations?
So what we know is that competition is driving value capturing through the chain. So there is a customer here with a given willingness to pay. There is setting a price. Someone, the firms, are creating the offering for that price and are buying things around. So we have the total value created, and we have a number of contributors to that value. And we know from the video that no one here in this chain can get more than what he takes to the table. But let's try to understand better which are the basic theory on this. So, first point, we have to see which are the divider. So, who is working, competing to this kind of division of the value that has been creating, making an offering that a customer has a willingness to pay for. So we have the buyer, the final customer, who is at the top of the chain and has different values he wants, and so you have the money and can buy or can choose some offering, and there are companies who are setting the price and closing, in some cases, a deal with the customer. Therefore, we will have a buyer who is getting for a price an offering from firms. And here we have the first set, the first point of value division. Someone has captured some of the value, some others have captured some of the values. The same process is going through when the firm is buying from customers. Again, there is a part of the value that is captured by the firm and the part of the value that is captured by the suppliers. Let's look a bit on the numbers. We have this market situation. There is a customer, and the customer has two offering firms. The first offer has a value for the customer of 100. So the willingness to pay for the first offer, for firms number one, has a willingness to pay for the customer of 100. The second firm is offering something much more interesting, and the willingness to pay grows to 110. Both firms are paying the same amount of money to their different suppliers. So look at what will happen in this chain. The first point is that we have two values, 150 and 100. Therefore, which is the value created in this case? We suppose that the value created is 150. So we take the higher chain of value creation. Why? Very simply because potentially 150 value can be created in the moment in which the customer, the buyer, will accept to pay 100 something less than 150, so he can get some value for him. In the moment in which he pay, for example, 149 for that offering, he is creating with all the chain the value. He is keeping $1 for him. He pay 149 and gets something that has a value of 150, and the remaining 149 will be divided along the chain. Now, willingness to pay and competition enter in the equation. So if you look at the first potential value capturing process, what will happen is that there is a customer who is willing to pay 150. The price of the firm number two is going to be 100, and the firm is getting 90 because he's paying 10 to his customers. Why the firm can offer a price of 100 and close the deal? Because the firm one, if he wants to offer the same value to the customer, has to offer 50. Why 50? Because he's giving the same added value to the final customer. So if you want to compete with firm number two, who is giving 150 in terms of value for the customer, if you are in the worst situation of offering something that has a willingness to pay of 100, you will have to lower your price by 50. So you will leave on the table of the customer the same amount of value for the customer. Here you have 90 and here you have 40 in terms of value captured by the firm number two, number one. Why the firm is capturing 90 and this firm is capturing 40? Because this firm is creating 50 more in terms of willingness to pay for the customer. But now let's look at how competition can work. Let's suppose that firm one will offer a best price, and so firm two will offer a best price, and so little by little prices will decrease. How much prices will decrease? The worst value creator, firm number 1, can lower the price to 10. Firm number 1 is not getting any money because it's paying 10 to his supplier, so it's a break-even company, and is leaving 90 to its customers. In the same process, to give 90, the price of firm 2 must lower it up to 60. At 60, firm 2 is still getting 50 in terms of value, that is the value he's creating in addition of this one, but is leaving on the table $90 to customers. So if you see the difference between this and this situation, and this situation is just competition working. Companies that wants to win customers lower the price in order to get more customers, and other firms are doing the same. This is the reason why usually we say that price wars are not better off for companies competing in the same industry. At the end of the price wars, value has been left on the table and customers get all the value from the price war. So at the end, the key point here is that in a chain who is providing value to a final customer, the maximum amount you can get from that chain is the added value you created. So in the moment in which the value created by all these players minus all the other players gives the amount of money, the amount of value that you can get participating on that value chain that is giving some value to a customer. And that's what we see in the video before. Why this is true? Let's try to do another exercise with our simple numbers. Let's suppose the firm number 2, who is creating 50 in terms of value because it's creating 50 more than his best competitor willingness to pay, wants to get more than 50. What does it mean more than 50? Is that probably firm 2 will have to rise the price. In the moment in which firm 2 rise the price to 65, he is getting 55, even if he's creating only 50. So all the other people participating in this competitive industry can get more, just not closing any deal with firm number 2. So in this case, customers are not getting 90, are getting 85. So they can get 90 here, or they can get 86, and one can be give to firm number 1. So firm number 1 and customers, or the customer in this case, because it's only one, can have a better deal here in this scenario, extra meeting firm number 2. This is the reason why firm number 2 can get only 50. Because if you rise the price, all the participants of that chain will switch to the other. Usually when we see this kind of reasoning, the first reaction is, oh, boring economic theory. If you want to having an incredibly real touch of how much this is a valuable decision-making driven structure of theory, let's think about Apple and Google and Fortnite. In the moment in which platforms are asking too much fees to suppliers to serve the customer, in the platform economy in which we live in the ecosystem in which we live in, a number of suppliers will switch to other ecosystem. And they will do that as soon as the ecosystem, other players will ask more than what they had in terms of value. So now try to take some strategic implication on this structure and solid theory. We will do that in the next video.